Okay, so the question about how to find the sum of numbers or the sum of numbers inside objects inside arrays. So in this video, we're going to figure out a few ways. First way, as we all know, is just the regular way. Let sum equals to 0. Do a simple for of loop. Let's do for const, I'll call this number of AR numbers. And then inside that loop, we just do sum plus equals number. And then on the right, you're going to see that we got 15. Okay, so what's the second way? Second way is you can either use map or for each. It's actually better to use for each because we don't want a new array as the return value, right? So we can just do AR numbers dot for each. Remember, for each takes in a callback function. I'll use a regular function for now. And then we get access to the numbers, number. And then what? We just do the same thing, sum plus equals number, like this. And we also get 15. The third way is using reduce, right? So AR numbers dot reduce. Remember, reduce takes in two arguments, and its first argument is a callback function that also has two arguments, accumulator and initial value. I'll call this accumulator. I'll call this init. We're returning something. Now, in this case, we can or cannot use the second argument, meaning we don't have to. I'll show you. I use 0 right now, and I return accumulator plus init. On the right, we have 15. Right. If we delete the second argument, we still get 15. Okay, let's do something a little bit more complicated. What if instead of just numbers, there's objects inside arrays? New, let's say 5. And then this one, let's do new equals 15. So the sum should be 20, right? How can we do this for each loop and reduce? Well, let's see. That sum, once again, equal to 0. AR numbers dot for each. I'll use an arrow function now. Number. And then what are we returning? We're not returning anything. We're returning the fact that sum would be plus equal to what? Number? It's not working, right? Because number now refers to the whole object. So for better naming sakes, I'll call this num obj. So that means we need to do num obj dot num. Okay, and then we get 20. Okay, what about reduce? AR numbers dot reduce. We're going to use accumulator, initial value. Now, for this one, we will actually need the 0 as a second argument inside of reduce. We're going to see why. Okay, we're going to return what? Accumulator, which is 0, plus init, which is actually the object. So we need to do init new, like so. And then you will see that it's 20. What happens if we don't use the second argument? We get this object and then 15, right? Why? Because this is an array of objects. So if you don't provide the second argument, the accumulator at the start will just be the whole object. Okay, so you cannot do a whole object plus a number. It's going to give you the object number, which is weird, right? Okay, let's do something a little bit more complicated. What if instead of this, it's an array that has an object that has an array of numbers? Let's do 1 and 4. Okay, so our sum should be 2 plus 9, should be 11 total. How can we do this? Well, I'll just show you with reduce right now. So right here, we can keep all of this the same, right? But we're going to do accumulator plus init, which is this, dot num, dot reduce, right? And then we're going to call a second reduce. I'll call this act2, init2, and we don't need a second argument because we're just doing arrays with straight up numbers inside. So then I'm going to return act2 plus init2. And then you see that we get our sum 11. Okay. So in summation, reduce is a lot harder to do, to read, but it can actually do a lot of things, right? But same thing with a for of loop and for each. So just use whichever one you want in the right case. Okay. All right. Hope everything was helpful.